Hi, first graders. We are on a new domain today. We are on domain 5, Early American Civilizations. And our first lesson is called the Maya, a harvest and a hurricane. Our first vocabulary word is harvest. Say harvest. Harvest means to gather a crop. And the next word is maize. Say maize. Maize simply means corn. So in this domain, you are going to learn about the way of life and important contributions made by 3 different civilizations, known as the Maya, the Aztec, and the Inca. So today we're going to learn specifically about the Mayan civilization. The Mayans were unique because they did not have a single government or even religion. Each city-state that made up the Mayan civilization had its own government, religion, and economy. So the Mayas lived in the rainforests in Mexico and also in Central America. Once there was a Mayan boy named Canal. Canal lived with his family about 3,000 years ago in an area that is now called the Yucatan Peninsula. One day, Canal was working in a field near the village where his family lived when he saw another Mayan boy coming his way. It was his cousin Peak. Canal smiled and said, "Hello, how are you?" Peak had been lost in thought. He answered, "Fine, thanks." But he looked unhappy, so Canal asked, "What's wrong?" Peak said, "My father told me that he is certain that there is a hurricane headed this way. He is worried about being able to harvest the maize in our fields before the hurricane reaches us." Maize, or corn, is the main crop the Mayan grew for food 1,000 years ago, as it still is today. Like most plants we grow for food, maize should be picked when the time is right to get it at its best. Canal knew this, so he understood why Peak was getting upset. "That's terrible," Canal said. "Let us go find my father. He will know what to do. He is one of the wisest men in the village." So the 2 boys started down the dirt path toward their village. As they drew nearer, they saw the houses ahead, each one made of stone. Canal's younger sister, Icol, was sitting in front of their house weaving cotton to make a brightly colored garment. When she saw the boys, she smiled. Canal asked her, "Has father returned from fishing?" "Not yet," said Icol. "If you are looking for him, he said he would probably try the place where he caught the big fish last week." So the 2 boys continued on through the village. An old woman smiled and waved them over. "Here's a little something for you boys," she said. She handed them some CKLA, fresh from the sapodilla tree. She smiled. "This is like chewing gum," and the boys popped some into their mouth, said thank you, and continued on their way. 10 minutes later, they reached the riverbank. A little upstream, Canal's father, Toon, stood knee-deep in the water while the other village men were getting out of a canoe. Toon was strong and very smart, and everyone liked him. Canal and Peak watched as Toon and the other men dragged a fishing net from the canoe to the shore. The shore is the land at the edge of the river. As the boys hurried forward, Toon and the other men drew the fish into a net onto the riverbank and looked up. "Hello, Peak," he said. "Canal, what are you doing here?" "Father," Canal replied, "Uncle believes that a hurricane is headed this way. He is worried about the maize. It could be destroyed if it is not completely harvested before the hurricane hits." Toon listened and then turned to Peak. "My brother can normally tell these types of things," he said. "We are family. We will all help you pick your corn. Tell your father, Zook, that I will come this afternoon and bring other family members to help." The boys grinned with excitement. "Thank you, Uncle," said Peak. "I will tell my father." He ran off to tell him the news. Canal looked down and saw that his father had caught many fish. He picked them up, and Toon took the rest. Then they headed back to the village. As they headed back to the village, Toon stopped each time he saw other relatives to ask if they would help harvest the maize for Zook. Everyone agreed to help. Families all depended on each other in their efforts to grow plants, hunt, and fish, and even build or repair one another's homes. Each person knew that when it was his or her turn to ask for help, the extended family would be there. By the time Canal and Toon reached home, everything was arranged. Toon said, "This afternoon, your Uncle Zook will find that he and Peak have all the help they need harvesting the maize. Then we need to prepare our house for the hurricane." That afternoon, Canal, Toon, and all their relatives helped Zook and Peak harvest their maize. They all worked late into the evening, and then everyone went back to their houses to get ready for the hurricane. They hoped that the hurricane would not damage their homes, but they would have to wait and see. The end. You may go ahead and answer the Google form questions about today's read aloud.